Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us for this week's Thursday with AARP Wisconsin. I am Amber Miller, the Associate State Director of Community Outreach and also your host. As always, before we get started with our wonderful guest, please make sure to check out the AARP Wisconsin website for information on upcoming events, which we'll talk about towards the end of the show, information about advocacy, vaccine, and it's updated on a regular basis. So we definitely encourage you to visit aarp.org/Wisconsin. Also, we are still looking for wonderful volunteers to join our AARP Wisconsin family. Even though right now we're not doing any in-person events, there are still a lot of opportunities virtually. And when we can start doing some in-person events, we'd love to have you join us. So if you're interested in volunteering with AARP Wisconsin, you can find additional information below at the website, including information on what opportunities are available. The AARP Friendly Voice Initiative is something I talk about during every show. It is free and open to anybody, any age. You do not need to be an AARP member either. And this is where you could put a request in for yourself or for a loved one to receive a phone call from one of our trained AARP volunteers. This is just a friendly voice on the other end, and you can request it for a daily phone call, weekly, or monthly, but definitely make sure to check out the website below or the phone number 1-888-281-0145. And just in case you may not have known, this week is National Small Business Week. So this is a week that highlights all the goodness that our small businesses bring. And you can find also more information about that on the Small Business Administration, the SBA website. But today we're lucky enough to bring some wonderful guests onto the show. And of course, as always, we do take live questions. So if you're interested in asking one of our guests a question, you can post it below on our Facebook.com page or our YouTube page. So first, I'd love to bring our first guest on, Jay Schlinsog. Sorry about that, Jay.
That was pretty good.
Okay, I really tried there, really tried. Jay is with the Downtown Professionals Network, and so it's really good to have you on today's show, Jay.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. And I know that you have a presentation, some visuals that if you want to bring those up.
Sure.
And then actually while we're doing that, Jay, if you could just talk a little bit about the Downtown Professionals Network, just if somebody's not familiar with that organization.
Sure. Let me make sure that we are in sharing mode here as I'm doing this.
Great.
Sure. Well, thank you so much. So Downtown Professionals Network is really a group, a collaborative of folks that just love downtowns, love working with small businesses, and just so happy that we can be here as part of Small Business Week celebration with AARP. The last year in particular, of course, has been challenging for all of us. And I think like many, as we think back to just a little over a year ago, we were in that same mode of just kind of shock and awe and what do we do, and almost a paralyzing kind of feel. But what grew from that was our Reopen Main Street initiative. And what it really was is just a chance to give back and to share ideas and to share what we thought might be some good strategies to help both businesses and community leaders and organizations navigate this thing that we know as COVID.
And what I appreciate about this, Jay, too, is our viewers, whether they're a small business owner or not, I think we all the past year have seen the effects of COVID and what it's done to our small businesses and downtown Main Street. So love that you're bringing us to the show today.
Well, thank you. And yes, as you mentioned, I think it's just undeniable. We've all been impacted in some way, shape, or form by COVID and the impacts of COVID over the past year. And one of the things that I think has been proven is the importance of small businesses in our community and the impacts that they have. Moreover, I think it's also provided some great stories and some great lessons that we've learned along the way too, as we've worked with small businesses, and in many ways, as we've rethought our traditional business districts or downtown business districts.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna mention among those, I think we all have a greater appreciation for just how important the public space in our downtown districts are. And, among those lessons that we learned, we saw businesses moving out into the public realm. And in many ways, it provided some semblance of livelihood, even in the great depths of COVID, but it also provided that lifeline for many of our businesses and a chance to experiment, in some cases, with ideas that many of us working in urban development and downtown revitalization had been grappling with for a number of years.
And Jay, with the pictures that are kind of rolling right now for our viewers, if you could talk a little bit about maybe, where they're from, because they're beautiful. And are these some of the ideals that came out of like either pre-COVID, or was this like ideas for after COVID that downtown maybe are implementing?
Sure. It's a little of both. This shot is from Three Rivers, Michigan, and it's just an example of how businesses got together to recreate this courtyard kind of atmosphere where one could still enjoy some of the great features of downtown while still respecting the need for social distancing. This is an example from Grand Haven, Michigan, of another partial street closure that became that festival area or dining area, at least to the extent that we could do that during COVID. But the cool thing here is that that temporary measure that was put in place in Grand Haven was so popular that the community is working through processes right now to make that a more permanent type of amenity or feature, and really reimagining that space as a destination that could help bolster the downtown area on a year-round basis.
And Jay, what would you find, especially during COVID? And I know we're in the state of Wisconsin, most of our viewers are, so it's a little bit different here, especially because it's seasonal. So outdoor dining sometimes gets a little sticky wick. But what have you seen that most small businesses have pivoted to during COVID, or some of the ideals that were super creative that kind of stuck out in your head?
Well, we saw a lot of businesses. It wasn't just the eating and drinking or the dining that was moving out into the public realm, but we saw a number of, for example, service businesses, even yoga studios and other fitness studios moving into the parks. We saw hairstylists and barbers moving their operations out into a canopy parking area, for example. So it really does display the ingenuity of our small business people. And certainly we saw a number of businesses that, for a number of different reasons, they still hadn't climbed aboard the e-commerce train or had been using social media to the extent that it could be a valuable resource for their business, and many capitalized in a big way.
And I can only speak, so I reside in Milwaukee, and this probably happened throughout the state of Wisconsin. I really appreciated some business models that pivoted towards curbside Bloody Mary mix pickup. I thought that was the most creative idea, but it also, I think, really helped small businesses really think outside the box of, you could do business one way this day and the next day you're laying off people, and really think of creatively. And I like the statistic right here about streets make up 80% of the US city's public space.
Yeah, and it's again, I think there was just a new level of awareness that was born through the crisis of COVID, and part of that was realizing that 80% of our districts, for example, being devoted to public space. In many ways, it suggested that we were vastly underutilizing that space. And in too many cases, and this evolved over a long period of time, the real priority for that space was given to the automobile. And for a long time, folks that do what we do talked about the merits of things like road diets and other types of treatments that would give priority to the pedestrian and accommodate bicyclists and other modes of transportation. And so we saw some what began as temporary measures again toward accommodating those different uses and giving preference to pedestrians and cyclists. And in the midst of crisis, we see innovation too. One of the big challenges, for example, to installing bike lanes is just the simple cost, where even just a mile of bike lane can cost thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And here's someone that came up with this great idea using reclaimed tires to create these separated bike lanes and dramatically reduce the costs. And
yeah, it does seem like the cost in anything is usually the barrier.
No doubt.
In anything, whether it's a bike lane or a parklet, it's usually the cost of it. So I love how creative that idea was.
Yeah, and it even goes, as we begin to think about that transition from the arrival and accommodating bicyclists and making sure that there are alternatives for folks to explore our districts and to visit our small businesses in a lot of different ways. And just within the past month, downtown Birmingham, Alabama, started experimenting with flex lanes, where again, these could accommodate any number of different uses, certainly bicyclists and pedestrians, but even provide space for pop-up shops or sidewalk vendors or kiosks that can help enliven the district as well.
Oh, go ahead, Jay.
Oh, and I just wanted to finish with, it even goes beyond streets and parks and thinking about the obvious. Even some of our alleys are being reimagined as these wonderful spaces where a community can really express itself and invite pedestrians to, again, explore in new and different ways.
And Jay, I know we're coming up to the end of your segment. With it being National Small Business Week, what would be some words that you would tell our viewers about, how we can either activate space, support local small businesses? What would you say to our viewers?
Sure. Well, a couple of things that immediately come to mind, Amber. Number one is resilient as our businesses have been. They're still struggling. Some are still trying to navigate the abyss, if you will. So by all means, support your small business. Go down, buy a cup of coffee, go buy your Mother's Day gift, buy yourself a Mother's Day gift. I don't care. But our small businesses need that support. And I spent a few hours with this young lady, Shirley Farrell, in the Birmingham district just a couple of weeks ago. And it was just fascinating to hear her story, because it's an example of Shirley was one that had a career in social services and retired to take on an encore career. And what you see here is Farrell African wear, which it provides a real valuable commodity and service for that district. And so I just think that it's okay to say thank you to those folks who put their livelihoods on the line. And I can tell you, they're working countless hours. And as a retailer from a former life, I just think that we all want to be able to salute them and the impacts and thank them for the impacts that they bring to our districts and our communities.
Absolutely. Well, Jay, thank you so much. And I appreciate all these beautiful photos and the stories of what communities are doing to really bounce back from COVID. And there is life after COVID, and even before COVID, how important it is to make sure that we're supporting our small businesses, because they really are the heart and soul of our community.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Amber.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jay. Appreciate it. Our next two guests, our two lovely lady guests, are Kate Westaby and Jennifer Stephany, who are from or with the Wisconsin Downtown Action Council, another acronym, which is WDAC. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Oh, and Jennifer, you're on mute. There you go. That's okay. That's the new slogan. That's the slogan for, don't even worry about it. But I want to thank you, ladies, so much for joining us on this week's show. And I was wondering, Catherine, I'll start with you. If you could talk a little bit about what Wisconsin Downtown Action Council is and how it's benefiting small businesses.
I'd love to start. And Jennifer, please chime in when possible. And these are mainly Jennifer's slides. So I'll just do a quick overview
Great.
of it's wisconsindowntown.org. That's where you can find us. And a lot of what we do is we are a group of, businesses, professional community leaders, downtown organizations, BIDs, business improvement districts. Our membership has a variety of people that are helping businesses as we get through this. We have a summit that we hold every year, except for the last two. We are attempting to hold one possibly later this year. We're still working through that, or even early next year. But we share a lot of resources, and we have a lot of partners, and we share their resources for them also. Jennifer, is there, I know I'm probably missing a couple of things, so please chime in.
On our website, which was recently redone, so we welcome you to come check it out. You'll learn a little bit more about some of the work that we do and some of the partners that we work with. The UW Extension Economic Development Department, we're very engaged with Wisconsin Rural Partners, of course, AARP, Wisconsin Economic Development Corp, and coming all together to share resources and to look for ways to support downtown districts as well as small businesses alike. And one of those initiatives that we talked a lot about last year is Shop Wisconsin Downtowns. So you saw that logo up on that slide, and that is available on our website along with PSAs, a pledge you can send over to your mayor, and really just to engage in supporting locally owned Wisconsin businesses. So we encourage you to go ahead and visit the site and go ahead and use it. Use the hashtag Shop Wisconsin Downtowns and share that with your businesses as well, and help to tell the story about how important it is to support your local business.
And Jennifer and Catherine, and I know I've read this somewhere, I can't think of where I read it, and I think it's just talked about in general, is about how downtown in general has changed so much that, back in the early days, 50s and 60s, or even before that, everybody would go downtown because that's where like all the stores were, and life has changed, and now there's malls and outdoor malls and people are shopping online. And I love that you guys are bringing the initiative of just like, remember downtown, remember the small businesses. There's still so much activity in our downtowns, but we just have to make sure that we're supporting that, because without the support, then our downtown, that's when you see the empty storefronts and businesses aren't thriving. Jennifer, what have, in your opinion, what have you experienced for the past year with Wisconsin's downtown related to small businesses? What have you seen, especially since COVID hit?
It's been a very challenging year, of course. So we've probably all said that a million times. As we're watching the recovery and connecting with small businesses, we are hearing kind of I'm not going to say bookends of the spectrum, but there have definitely been some businesses that have very much excelled during this time and did very well. If you have your own candle product and you've been selling candles online, a great product. We have a business downtown here that had a great year. I have another business that sells in-home recording studio equipment.
Wow.
Right. And
Yeah.
so there's definitely some of those niche retailers, I think, that really found their calling and were able to bring the products to the people at a time when they really needed them. Retail in general, from what we're hearing both around the state and of course within my local area, held on very well. And the message about shopping local and supporting your local businesses really translated to economic support this year. And the retailers, while still down, seems to be more around the 20% level down versus like where lodging came in our area at 57% down. So in terms of making it through COVID and coming through in 2021 in a good position. Retailers are really doing quite well. Restaurants, we're seeing some new challenges now. Of course, takeout still being really, really high as part of their program of work now. For some, the takeout really wasn't even how they did business, and they had to figure that out. And now it's absolutely critical. Outdoor dining, as Jay had mentioned, really critical for bringing that back and looking for ways to incorporate that into public spaces. And I'll talk about a couple of examples of that. So on this slide here, we see a couple of programs that I just wanted to highlight. O'Connor Connected, which is a business out of the De Pere area, did a program called Downtown Faces Forward. As we talk about bringing awareness to small businesses, they did it off the charts, and they did it out of the goodness of their heart. They didn't get paid for any of this. And it was this remarkable program. They started in De Pere, and then Green Bay, and then Appleton, and then Neenah, and they kept reaching out and bringing the people behind the businesses, the business owners, to the forefront. And they created a Facebook page and really told a story about the people that run those businesses, that created those businesses, that bring something really special and unique to our downtowns. And it was awesome. It got great traction, and I highly recommend you check it out, and don't be afraid to use it. Recreate something like this in your own community, because it can only do good. As Jay had mentioned, really using public spaces for outdoor dining and stretching out your capacity a little bit. We saw many communities, Eau Claire being one of them, that looked at a parklet policy for their downtown. I know La Crosse already had one, and Fond du Lac has done it, and Manitowoc has done it. But these are great ways of creating additional outdoor seating in a downtown area that might not have a wide street to be able to do outdoor cafes. So really a great alternative to that. A little bit more on the expense side, but it doesn't have to be. They don't have to be real fancy and elegant. They just need to be safe. And then a great example of another project came to us from the Milwaukee East Side bid, and our buddy Elizabeth over there did a parking lot takeover and created the art lot and utilized local artists to paint these beautiful picnic tables. And what turned into much needed outdoor seating actually evolved into a business reaching out and saying, hey, could I host an art market here? Absolutely. So now all of a sudden there's this new activity and new people coming in the district, and having an opportunity to do outdoor shopping really brought a lot of value. So there's so many of these unique stories. My last slide has a bunch. I think I get the award for busiest slide. There it is.
It's beautiful.
That's what I was going for. Yeah. I think the overarching message here is you can't stop, right? In a situation like COVID, you just had to keep going, and you just had to keep doing what you could do. And so much of that got switched over to virtual shopping events. We did virtual shop hops. We still hold farm market, and hopefully most communities were able to do that. We still did public art. We still did local shopping campaigns. Ours was called Support 920, and it was really a call to action. It wasn't just a shop local message. It was pick 9 businesses, spend $20, be committed to it, take a pledge, go to our website, take the pledge, and people did it. And it was really exciting and inspiring. And then they told their friends about it, and the shopping was awesome. So
Great.
I could talk all day.
I know, and that's why we love you, Jennifer, because I could talk about stuff like this all day. I actually want to bring Jay back, because we have one final question, and I do want to point out, we have 2 questions. I do want to point out, with the Milwaukee East Side bid with the picnics, they did win an AARP Small Dollar Big Impact grant last year, which helped support those efforts. And Liz has just been great in definitely wanting to expand that. For this year. So we'll bring up our first question from Jim. Are communities doing enough to support the rebound of their local businesses? Are there creative new ways to help them out, such as converting more public spaces into outdoor dining, pedestrian malls? Jay, I'll start with you, and then Catherine, I'll go to you.
Sure. Great question. I think, are they doing enough? I think we could always we could always do more,
Mhm.
certainly. But I do think that in many ways, COVID has provided us a license to experiment and do some things that in the past we were just told, no, you can't do that, without giving it any real meaningful thought. And the example I shared from Grand Haven, for example, is really, I think, a great story in the making, because it was already successful as an experiment. Now, as we begin to look at how these things might become more permanent fixtures and features as part of a downtown or a district's landscape, that provides some really exciting opportunities moving forward.
Great. And Catherine, same question to you. Do you feel like we are doing enough?
There are some communities that are really doing really well, but there's probably more that they could do, and there's a lot of communities that are seeking how to do it. I know over the past year I've taken a lot of calls from various communities just asking, how can we do better? How can we make strategic plans and include outdoor spaces and things like that? And on our website, we do share resources. We try to post at least 2 things a month to help other communities look at what others are doing.
And we have one other question from Sam. And Jennifer, I'm going to start with you. So are there any websites where downtown businesses in Wisconsin are aggregated and featured so we can buy local, even if the small businesses is outside our own community?
There is. One resource I would call out is Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, and they opened up their kind of shop local shopping page to include other communities as well. So where you would have normally had to have been a Connect community or a Main Street community, they open that up to others. So as Appleton is not either one of those, we were able to send them a list of businesses and get them uploaded onto that site. So that is definitely a resource to check out.
Great. And I want to thank you all, Jay, Catherine, and Jennifer, for being with us this week to celebrate Small Business Week. I think you gave a very, holistic approach on, I think, small ways that we could still help small businesses and also activating space to, for our community. But I will buy my Mother's Day gift at a local small business because I still am procrastinating. And I love the 9 for 20 initiative. I love that. Just shifting even just a little spending on how much that can impact your community. And I appreciate everybody's presentation and comments today. So thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And if you are viewing this live or in replay, please make sure to share this on your Facebook or YouTube page. Remember, every little thing that we could do to support our small businesses is just one step closer to making sure that we're supporting our community. For next week's show, we will be joined by our advocacy team through AARP Wisconsin. They're going to be talking about some things that they're working on, so please join us next Thursday at noon for that. The next Small Dollar Big Impact Grant, which if you recall, I just talked about how the East Side bid in Milwaukee received it last year to help with the benches. The next application is due May 19th. It's at the website below, which is aarp.org/WI and then lowercase sd. BI, which is Small Dollar Big Impact. So if you have a great idea for your community, definitely we encourage you to fill out an application for a possibility of a grant of up to $1,000. We also have some upcoming virtual events that might be of interest to you. So May 10th, we have Work for Yourself at 50 Plus if you're interested in possibly starting or expanding your business. May 11th, Decluttering and Downsizing. May 12th, Movies for Grownups. The movie will be When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit. And May 13th is part 2 of Decluttering and Downsizing, which is great during this nice weather we have just to throw things out we don't need anymore. And you can find all that information on our website, aarp.org/Wisconsin or WI. But I want to thank you guys so much for joining us today. Small Business Week, it's important. I think, we can celebrate small businesses every day, not just one week. So please make sure to get out there and support your local small businesses. And until next Thursday, be safe.